You're listening to Ecosysteming, the podcast redefining economic development through the lens of equitable entrepreneurship. Join NC Idea as we engage with entrepreneurs and experts who are challenging the status quo and driving lasting change.
Hello, viewers and listeners to the Ecosysteming podcast. I'm your host, Tom Rue. And wow is all I'm going to say about today's guest. Let me see how I do this justice. This person today is probably the best known individual in the entrepreneurship ecosystem of North Carolina. And she's so well known and revered for good reason, because I believe she has no equal in this thing of ours, this business we are in, of giving away more money than my friend and colleague, Amy Bastian, or should I say, Madam Vice President, an esteemed member of the senior leadership team here at NCIDA. Amy, welcome.
Why, thank you very much, Tom. I feel like mic drop, like just end the interview there. What else can I say?
Well, I'll give you it away. It's one of my little secrets. If you start with flattery right out of the gate, you tend to have a more pleasant conversation. But I won't tell the viewers just like how much you intimidate me and how nervous I am sitting next to you at the moment.
You're doing a great job, Tom.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You let me know if there's anything I need to correct while we're getting into this further. So I'm sure you already figured out, the dynamic of our relationship, which, by the way, July 20, if my records are accurate, and I did have to search my laptop because that was 3 laptops ago that I had your offer letter on. But I think July 23rd of this year will be your 8-year anniversary.
You're right.
Assuming we didn't change your actual start date from the offer letter to when you actually did start. But July 23rd, 2018, is, I believe, when you started at NC Idea. We're going to spend, not surprisingly, this episode, we're going to spend a lot of time about specifically the grant program, which is what the organization was founded over, the seed grant in particular. And we're going to get really granular with the viewers and listeners about the program, the hows, the whys, and advice and things like that. But I want to do very, very quickly, just to give the same access or the same respect that I do other guests, give a little bit about your CV. So prior to the 8 years you've been with us, and by the way, viewers, you'll notice a little trend here. You were over 7 years at the Nature Conservancy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you clocked in over 9 years in public radio. Yes?
That's right.
At KCRW.
Yes, in Santa Monica, California.
Santa Monica, California. So you really can't put any tenure anywhere you go. What's with that flighty job history you've got there?
Yeah, well, I find myself drawn to mission-driven organizations, and oftentimes it's not just the mission, but it's the people. And when you work with good people and you do good work, and you find it rewarding, and you find opportunities to grow, why move around?
No, I couldn't agree more. And in all seriousness, I've said, and regular viewers and listeners would know how much I'd like to gush over our team. I'm sure you'd agree with me that we have something very special here, and it's something that we all feel kind of vested in and a need to protect.
Yeah, and what's also great is that while our team isn't that big, I mean, it's now 12 people, which is the biggest we've ever been, the ecosystem is so supportive. So I feel that our ecosystem in the state, our entrepreneurial ecosystem, is our extended team, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's really special. So it's not only, I get to show up every day and have these great coworkers that are on my, core team that are part of NC Idea, but I feel like I have coworkers across the state.
Yeah.
Doing the work that we do. So it's feeling part of this really core, great team, but just a lot of great support and connections across the state.
I couldn't agree more. You and I were just in a meeting earlier today with some of those extended partners, right?
Mm-hmm.
These LEAF fellows, these librarians, fellows that are helping us. Well, I just confess, I know it is LEAF, librarians for
Entrepreneurship Advancement Fellowship.
Thank you.
I may not have the connector words right.
I think you are. I think you are right.
Okay.
But like, you felt the love, right?
Felt the love. First of all, who doesn't love a librarian? Right?
Exactly.
And the fact that they're already in the communities, they want to do good. They're in it for the long haul, right?
Yeah.
They have these great resources. And so we've been involving them to get a little bit into our information sessions. But when we go around the state and do these information sessions for our grant programs, we show up, we talk to entrepreneurs, but not everyone who's there is necessarily the right fit or not the right stage, or they don't feel like they have the resources to fill out the most competitive application. So now we can say, hey, here's a Leaf librarian. They're in your community. You can go and have a free session with them and get resources, get access to these great databases. Just have someone else to talk to, and they can help you fill out the application or just give you some insight. So they're just a great part, as you said, of our extended team now.
Yeah. So let's get a little bit granular.
Okay.
And you and I could, again, 8 years, member of SLT, we could talk broadly about anything in the organization, but there will be people tuning in that see your name who are aspiring entrepreneurs and are going to be like, oh, that's an episode I'm actually going to listen to. So let's pay them off and start with why they might be tuning in. And that's specifics around, seed and micro. Why don't you just very briefly synopsis of both programs, and then we'll get in a little deeper. But why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Yeah. And I feel like an entrepreneur who knows their business really well. I know seed and micro really well, so I might just get really in the weeds. So pull me back, Tom. If you're like, save it for the information.
If you'll permit it, I will.
Yes, please. So we have 2 grant programs that NCID is really known for supporting startup founders in the state that are leading early stage innovative companies that have real growth potential. So we've got our $10,000 micro grants and our $50,000 seed grants. If you want to know more, because we have our fall grants cycle coming up, we have 2 grant cycles a year. We are kicking off information sessions across the state. We will have 5 in person and 1 virtual. So ncida.org has a lot of information about it. So if you're tuning in today and want to know a little bit more, then please check that out and follow us. One of the things I can say is if you're interested or you're tuning in today and you feel like you could be a fit, it really is important to get started early in the process. We always have resources available. So these grants, again, are for companies that have real growth potential. 2 grant cycles a year. We give out 6 $50,000 seed grants. We give out 15 $10,000 micro grants per cycle. And it really is not only the money we hear. We understand the money is what potential money is oftentimes gets people to find out about us, to do research, or maybe even apply. But we say that for any of the programs that we have, what you put into it is kind of what you get out of it as well. AI makes it easier to submit an application these days, but I think it was you, Tom, you said to me, effort rewards effort, in the sense of we involve reviewers in the process. So for all of our grants, for eligible competitive applicants, reviewers review the application, actually give written feedback. And one of the key things that an applicant can do to get the max value out of that application process and the max value out of that potential reviewer feedback is to put some time into the application and really understand types of companies that are competitive and eligible for our grants and how to really get your idea across, because it's kind of old school. Our application, it's text. We have limited character counts, so it's not a video. I mean, that's an optional. You can attach it. It's not a deck. It is, how do I describe my company, my problem, my solution, my competition in 1,000 characters?
So let me pull back for a second,
Yes.
and then we'll double click again. So we do 6, sometimes 7,
Sometimes 5.
sometimes 5 seed grants twice a year, and then we'll do 30 plus or minus 2, 3, 4 micros.
Mm-hmm.
So we're putting close to $1 million free money.
Free money.
Right. So when you hear the word grants, ladies and gents, we are talking, the fancy term is non-dilutive funding, but it's free money.
Yeah.
There's quote strings attached. So you want to talk very briefly about like eligibility, like what are some of those strings? Like, are we funding anything?
Mhm.
Like who can who should apply and why?
Right. Well, first off, not a surprise. The company has to be a North Carolina company.
Wait, what?
I know.
But what if like one of my co-founders lives in Miami and I've got a developer?
So Tom, we're in the economic development space.
Oh, I
Right.
forget that.
Yes.
Okay.
So obviously a North Carolina company. They're early stage, so we do some vetting around that. For our seed grants, you have to be a
Wait a
full-time.
minute. You say we do vetting around that. So you mean we actually check that you're
We
a North Carolina
do.
company?
We do. We always say that if you're going to apply and you've just moved to the state, which is fine. If you move
Right.
to the state, that's great, but go to LinkedIn, update the location. If you've already have a website and you started in a different area, make sure it says North Carolina. One of the things that we just look for flags. We get so many applicants. If there's something that doesn't pass the smell test or just seems a little bit off about where a company is located, and we have other companies that are just as competitive, and it's really clear they're North Carolina companies, we only have so much time for vetting.
But now that doesn't mean I have to be necessarily incorporated in North Carolina, right?
Correct.
Because I could be a Delaware corp.
Absolutely. Yes.
So just as long as the majority of the operation is in North
Yes.
Carolina.
And you're planning on, if things bear out the way you hope, that you are really going to grow the company in North Carolina. And you're embedded in the ecosystem. That's one of the things that we look at.
Yeah, that's a giveaway.
Yeah, is that we have an area for supporting communities on the application. And we're looking for, have you been part of an accelerator program? Do you go to meetups? Do you have advisors in the area? So those are the other ways that we vet if a company is a North Carolina company.
Well, we're going to double click on that in a minute. But let's keep going through the eligibility.
Right. So we are industry agnostic,
Okay.
which makes it really fun because we never kind of know what types of businesses we may see. And there's such a variety of businesses in the state. But these are for companies that really have really growth potential. So majority, I'd say, of the companies that apply or get the grants will get some type of angel funding, pre-seed, VC funding, but it's not required. If a company has a path to be a multi-million-dollar company in a few years and eventually a growth path of even 10 million plus, if things bear out, but they can do it through bootstrapping, they can do it through grants, strategic partnerships, any other way, that's fine. But it's for companies that can really have the economic impact in the state by growing to be a large company.
Got it.
And then there's some types of businesses that, because we look for impact in our grant, so that either a 10K grant or a 50K grant can move the business forward to the next stage. For micro, it's validating something about their business model. And for seed, it's really moving them to the point that they can extend their runway, either through increased revenue, either through better margins, through other funding, or other types of partnerships that can help them continue to grow. But those companies really have a plan for moving forward.
What about a service business? If I'm a hair salon, bakery or something like that, community engaged service company.
Yeah. So
transportation, maybe.
So services or tech-enabled services aren't a fit for our micro and seed grants. They're great businesses. And we have a lot of partner organizations that we fund through our ecosystem and engage grants that might be supportive to those companies. And we actually have a list on our website of companies that are not eligible because we realize that we can't have that extensive list and go through them all. But what we're looking for is to support businesses that may have a non-standard business model or can't grow a little bit and fund their next through revenue, or have a bit of revenue and then maybe get a bank loan. So ones that maybe need a little bit of capital up front to get to that point where they can either get investment or be self-sustaining. So we are out there to fund the companies that have a little bit more innovative business model and don't have, and not saying it's easy for small businesses, a brick and mortar business to go out and get a loan, but there are the more standard paths to growth for those companies, and those tend to be a little bit slower growth, and sometimes also looking for founders who want to grow a company very, very large with an innovative business model. And not every founder wants to do that.
So what if I looked at the website and based upon the criteria and eligibility that, I read there, I'm not quite sure, would I be stronger for micro or, 50 grand is better than 10. So is like the hedge here apply for both?
You can't actually apply for both in a
Wait,
certain.
what?
Yes. Tom, you really should have gone over our criteria.
I should have. I'm so sorry.
No, obviously I'm joking. So one of the first, I guess, tests or challenges for a founder, if they feel like, okay, I'm eligible, my business is eligible.
Right.
Now, like you said, it's micro or seed. That 50K could really be great. But, well, one, we do give out more micro grants than seed grants. So I'm not saying everyone should just apply to micro, but we do require a founder to only submit one application to either micro or seed in a cycle. But it is really common, so common for founders to apply multiple times, even if they do end up getting the grant,
Yep.
which is one of the reasons why we involve reviewers from across the state and you give written feedback to eligible companies because, again, rewarding that effort. If a founder takes the time to fill out an application to the best that they can and kind of puts themselves out there, right? They're taking time away from their family, their business to fill out this
Sure.
application. It's an investment for them. We reward that with feedback from reviewers from across the state. Again, there's a rubric. We have that, but we also have written feedback. So part of it is that, founder may get some feedback. They may not advance, but hopefully they read the feedback and say, okay, maybe I have an idea of what to do next time or what to focus on in my business in the next 6 months before I apply again. And maybe that 50K was really, really tempting and I applied to seed. But now that I've got my feedback and kind of really thought about it, I probably should apply to micro next cycle.
All right.
Eh, It's very common.
I'm gonna. I hope. I hope I'm not breaching a protocol here. But one of the reviewer questions for seed that I don't know that we tell, like the reviewer might say, "Hey, you would have been stronger as a micro applicant,"
Mm-hmm.
but we have to answer a question: would this applicant have been better as a micro?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that to me is one of the oh, how would I describe that? It's I don't want to say it's one of the sadder questions or but it's one of those questions that every review I do, when I'm answering yes, I kind of feel like, oh, I mean, like if you had gone, and so I remember I was at an event, I was talking to somebody who applied for seed twice, didn't get a dig in, and I said, well, did you look at micro? Because once they explained to me where their business was, I'm thinking like, oh, you should have been applying to micro. And his answer was like, hey man, it's X amount of hours. 50 is greater than 10. So to me, it just was made more sense, right? It was more logical. And I get that. The human nature in me says, I get that. But then the way I answer anybody now that I have even get close to this, I say, yes, but you can shoot for the bigger prize with like a 1.5% probability of winning, or you can go for the 10K prize. So 50,000, 1.5% chance of winning, or 10,000 with a 7.5% chance of winning. What is truly the better ROI there then?
Yeah. And if you get micro, you can go on to get seed. You can get the full 50, even if you get the 10. And that was the goal with micro. I mean, I started right after the pilot cycle of micro. And so there's a lot of learning going on at NCIDEA around that for the first year and a half. But that was the goal for micro, is to help some companies that we'd see types of companies apply to seed, not quite be there. I'm like, oh, they had a little bit of money. I feel like I'm channeling John Austin, one of our former colleagues. I feel like he would describe that to me. If they just had a little bit of money, they could validate something about their business and then they'd be more competitive for seed. And so it is about 30% of our micro grantees go on to be, we call seed competitive, make it at least to the seed semifinals in future cycles, which was our goal early on. So again, you can apply to micro, be part of the programming, get to know the team. We get to see how people manage the grant, how they follow up with networking and mentor madness and build connections and really take advantage of the community. And we have that then going in to when they apply to seed in the future.
Yeah, I like to joke when somebody says, like, what's the one strongest thing I can do to help win a seed grant? And I semi-serious and sarcastically say, win a micro.
Yeah.
That's probably the strongest move you can make towards winning a $50,000 seed grant would be to first win the micro
Yeah.
grant. Prior to both of us being here, the data for the seed grants was pretty undeniable and pretty homogenous, right? White males in the major metro area, and I would say on occasion, tongue in cheek, every once in a while we'd find a white dude in Charlotte. So it was, Triangle, Charlotte, And nothing wrong with that, right? I think that was a predictable outcome of classic technology-based economic development. Because in the early days of T-Bed, we didn't have the historical data to make us all look like geniuses, right? So that takes time to accumulate. So when you look with hindsight, with the benefit of hindsight, you look back and go, oh, well, yeah, no duh. 90% went to white dudes in major metros, right? But about 10 years ago, the organization made a philosophical and value inspired stance, uh, change, and to say, listen, we're going to be very intentional about, making the participation in entrepreneurship more available, more broadly used, and kind of level the playing field, really investing in that. And micro was our first experiment because the thesis being that earlier intervention, right? Everybody, regardless of race, gender, geography, like we are all hardwired with the same amount of entrepreneurial potential, but then everything else is skewed and not same. So if we had an earlier intervention, we could do something to broaden our underserved numbers. And here's where I'm handing it off to you, right?
I'll take it, Tom.
There you go. So why don't you tell me how we've done with those efforts?
We've done very well, Tom. Sorry, I had to get
Thank
my
you.
public radio voice in here at one point.
Very good.
Yes. So I am going to bring an engaged ecosystem to this because they're really,
Please.
really important to the whole process. But yeah, so we have internal goals around having our micro grantees and our seed grantees have representation for minorities, females, and economically distressed communities. And as you said, the lack of ideas and talent and drive in our community is being the community of North Carolina is spread out. That's equal. So we have found that the more diverse applicant pool leads to a more diverse grantee pool.
Who'd have thunk?
And when I say diverse, it's, again, also in terms of different types of businesses. We have a lot of first-time founders receiving our grants. And a big part of first-time founders being competitive for the seed grant is because micro, we not only have a diverse group, but we're connecting them to the ecosystem. We have something we call Mentor Madness that is speed dating for advisors and mentors, because really helping them get connected and demystifying the whole startup ecosystem, also through programming, and just being like, regardless of my background, regardless of where I come from in this state or what I look like, I now understand this community a little bit more, and they can help me navigate and de-risk what it is to be an early stage entrepreneur, because it's hard. It's really, really hard. And through our engaged partners and our ecosystem partners, these individuals and organizations across the state that have real validity in their communities and they have trust of their communities, these individuals who say, hey, you know what? There's an organization that's giving away some money. And even though you might have looked at them and said, I don't know, my business could be a fit, we think that you could be. We'll work with you. And so they have been really great at helping get the word out across the state, helping us reach all types of entrepreneurs across the state, which has led to that more diverse applicant pool, which again leads to a more diverse grantee pool.
And how far have we moved that needle? I said, before you and I both were here, it was over 90% white male major metro. Where are our numbers now?
Yeah, for each cycle for micro and seed is regularly like 80 to 90, sometimes even 100% of either having at least a female minority or a company founder or being based in a tier 1 or tier 2 county. And micro, that's close to 80%.
Wow.
And again, that doesn't factor into the selection process. We don't select our grantees based on that. We really work hard to have that diverse applicant pool, and really those are the numbers we do obsess over, as you say, as we go through the process.
Right.
How are we doing? But if we're not hitting our numbers early on in terms of, and also diversity of its geography as well, business types, all types, then we really debrief after each grant cycle and say, okay, what can we be doing better? Do we have the right partners? Are we getting the word out? And then I think it factors into future engaged grants that we're giving out, ecosystem grants, of what types of support and programs are needed to be piloted across the state that we can help with, that can, again, help us just see that really great support for diverse founders across the state.
You kind of said it as matter of factly, and it is, but I want to double click ever so briefly on the fact that, like, being from a historically underserved group, it's not an application advantage. It's not, you don't get extra credit. It's really more that we had invested, candidly, millions of dollars
Hmm.
through our Engage and Ecosystem Partner Program in, if you'll forgive the cliche, leveling the playing field. Because, folks, let me explain something to you. If you're new to this business that Amy and I are in the economic development space, when you say that, you're equity first, there will be opposition to that and people that will cry, oh, the process should be colorblind or gender neutral or, whatever. Like, that should not matter. And for years, I have struggled trying to explain why it does and why it should. So I've come up with a quaint metaphor. I think it's clever. You all can let me know if it's stupid, but the way I try to explain it to is like, imagine you're driving down a country road and you see a ball field, and there are 9 and 10-year-old kids playing baseball at this, little field here. And you think, oh, great. They're all playing the same game, with the same rules, baseball. But now this $1 million motor coach pulls into the parking lot, dusty cloud, and the New York Yankees walk off the bus and onto the field. And they say, all right, boys and girls, let's play ball, right? You're using bats, gloves, mitts, right? Like, everybody's got the rules are the same.
Yeah.
So, and to me, this is the pushback I get. Like, so when people always, clutch their pearls, like, oh my goodness, equity is like still one of your values. Like, how quaint. And I'm like, of course it is, man. And it is authentically so, because this is what it looks like in economic development.
I think you've often said, and I'm not going to get your phrasing exactly correct, but we're able to live our values and put this money out on the street through our Seed and Micro, Ecosystem Engage, and other work that we do. But just imagine if there was more of that money to help us do the work that we do.
Oh, now wait a minute. It felt like you just did a Jedi mind trick here, and you flipped the role that you're moderating because you just teed me up on, a very emotional thing for me. Like, yes, folks, if you haven't heard me say it once, hear me say it now. Whatever we deploy, we're putting on the street, first of all, is only a fraction of what this work could use. And we could multiply, the resources. We could fund more founders. We could fund more ecosystem partners if we had more resources. And that will continue to be my only frustration in this work. I mean, I love my job so much, working with you and your colleagues, doing this work, helping people realize their dreams. It's awesome. My frustration is, doesn't everybody, like,
I know.
organizations with means, like our entire endowment, like, give or take 50 million bucks, right? That's a rounding. I've worked at multi-billion-dollar foundations, right? Where my annual budget would fund our operation for a decade.
So earlier, if I heard correctly, you said there were 1.2 million startups founded. And if we, increased that survivability rate, or from
5% per the state Secretary of State's office, just seminal bombshell report of 2024. If we were to help 5% of the nascent firms, 5 years old or younger, get to what they defined as self-sufficiency, which they defined that the thousands of people that responded to the survey pegged at $100K in revenue or greater. Okay. That's not asking for a lightning strike.
And what would it add?
It would add 25,000 jobs in year one, and a cascading economic impact of $1.5 to $2 billion of economic impact year one.
Year one.
Right? So that means that 5% that gets that acceleration, assuming a pretty high and decent survival rate into the next year, that billion of impact is happening now going into year two. So there's a 2x on that, or call it a 1.8x. And then that next year, hopefully we help another 5%. You see where this starts going? And the fact, well, I mean, I've got theories why it's not a bigger deal because you don't get to have that big photo op.
Well, we do talk about, oh, if there were more ribbon cuttings
Right.
for startups. And so at our um, partner meeting last year, I think it was when we were announcing the Wells Fargo
Yep.
grant, um, our colleagues got a huge pair of scissors so that we could have a photo op with the entrepreneurs that were being funded because we realized how important that is. And,
It
you
was
know,
a nice moment.
it was, though we didn't really know how to use the scissors
No,
very well, so we couldn't cut the ribbon.
no, I was like perched in the middle, back one row, looking down at it, and I'm like, let's cut the goddamn thing. Let's be done with it. But that's why we do the magic in post
Yes.
to make it look great.
Yeah.
But the point we were trying to make for them is, hey, we see you.
Yeah.
We see you because it's lonely starting something.
Yeah.
You don't always have that, esprit de corps. You don't have that established posse. I mean, that's why people choose to work in co-working spaces where you have a sense of community. And boy, if there's one thing I will take a pat on the back for, the efforts of our team is that we build that esprit de corps here such that I loved it. It was already 3 years ago when I heard it the first time. Someone was just, giving us praises for the ethos of our annual summit. And she looked at me, I mean, like eyes watering, saying, I feel like I'm part of something when I'm at your summit. I feel seen. I feel like, what I'm here for. It feels like a family reunion. And that vibe of a family reunion where some of the people that come into the summit, they may not see each other for the rest of the year, but they get reconnected
Mm.
at the summit and are reminded like, yeah, we're part of something bigger.
Yeah, and that's one of the most rewarding parts of my job is when we work with the founders, either in the group programming or my colleague Lee and I, we meet with our C or 50K grantees on a regular basis through their grant period. And the more that we can do to just remove some of the friction in the life of an entrepreneur, the 50K helps. It
Right.
helps a lot. But we also are always asking ourselves, what else can we do? Or a lot of it is we have a check-ins and we're like, how can we help today? What are you running into? And so that's just such a rewarding part because it is really hard. And the more that we can do to connect people, um, just be like, there's a place you can turn to. We're part of that supporting community, or we can introduce you to someone else who may be that great resource for you. And then we can then, if they feel like, oh, that really helped me, and
Yep.
down the road, if somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, would you be open to a conversation? How did you get to where you are?" I'm going to remember back and go, "Yeah, yeah, I'll talk with you. I'll share my story."
Yeah, I think I think among the many things that just make this work a privilege is how many people are investing in the goodwill
Hmm.
of the ecosystem. And then let's segue there for a minute. We've called out our fantastic colleagues multiple times to say nothing of our board. Um,
Many of whom are reviewers for our Seed and Micro grant. So thank you
Reviewers
very much.
and ecosystem partners and all invested in, everything that we're trying to build. And so that I think that is part of the secret sauce.
Hmm.
I opined about this once in a newsletter, editorially speaking, several months ago, that really boards, I think, are the barometer of an organization's courage, right? They are, you can say what you want about staff, right? But if you look at in our case, a nonprofit private foundation economic development organization out there doing, if you look at with admiration or with anxiety or something less than admiration, yes, the way the staff function and how that organization is led by the senior leadership team there, that's a big deal of it. But ultimately, how ambitious that organization can be or strives to be, that's governed by the board, right? Like the board is the limiting factor there. So show me an organization that's swinging for the fences, that has the courage to take chances and say, like we did with Micro.
Yeah.
And when the board signed off on that was brand new. We weren't, it's not like we were swimming in cash,
No.
additional money, or the recent tweener expansion, right? I mean, holy smokes.
Yeah, and a board that actually makes sure that you're ready so that when opportunities come up, you got your house in order,
That's right.
right? And that and that if there were any questions leading into it of about existing programs or questions about the team, those are taken care of. And that communication investment from the board to make sure that, I mean, I'd say our board is very trusting of us, but they expect us to report up and to be transparent and
Trust but verify.
exactly, exactly. So then it's we're ready and the board is ready when these really exciting opportunities come along.
So staff, board, but there's more. And so I'd like to hear from you because, you get to work with them more than I do. You guys don't let me have unfettered access to everybody all the time as much as I would care to. But, we've got reviewers, we got fellows, we got pitch coaches. Like we do a lot and we are mighty for the size of our team and the limitations to our own resources, but we can't do everything we do with just us.
Mm-mm.
So, for the sake of the viewer listener, can you just let's give some love to our reviewers, our fellows,
Absolutely.
our coaches.
Yes. Um, as you said, it's not just staff that reviews. We say that micro and seed, they're well-oiled machines. We kind of joke about it, like we have the schedule, we keep to it. But it's not just because we like to keep things to a schedule. It's because there's so many stakeholders who are involved in the process. I mean, you have the founders who are wondering, could I get 10K? Could I get 50K? Have to set aside time. So we want to be really transparent. Like, this is what the process is to apply. But then it's the same for reviewers and others involved in the process this is volunteer time. These are individuals who say, I'll take 1 to 2 hours to review an initial application, more hours to review applications as seed uh, applicants advance through the process if they advance. Or for we call them our core reviewers, those who are with us for an entire seed review cycle, many rounds of reviewing, in-person meetings, volunteer time. They're taking time away from their jobs, their families, to spend time with us to really help us find the most competitive companies. And
Let me interrupt you. Why do you think they're willing to do that?
for a variety of reasons, Tom, we have a mix of people who review with us. Some are startup founders who just like it's giving back, right?
Right.
We love it.
Coupons back into the karma bank.
Is that a Tomism?
I don't know if I can take credit for that. I've said it for so long, it might be.
I'm going to say coupons in the karma bank is a Tomism, at least by our standards.
Okay.
But sorry, I digress. So,
but they do
apologies.
that because they're paying it back.
They
right?
are, and they want to they still want to be involved in the process, and they're paying it back 100%. So we have people who are part of that process because of it, and we love that insight because also when they write feedback, they're writing it from the point of view of a founder to a founder.
Oh, that's important.
Really important. And oftentimes they'll identify themselves and say, I was in your shoes. And then there are those who are ecosystem partners who are working with these founders across the state who also want to see what other founders are starting and want to just give that feedback. And then we also do have investors in the early stage, pre-seed, and angel community in North Carolina. So part of funds. So they're part of that process as well. So they get to see companies early on and get to give feedback. So it is a variety of people who have different reasons.
You mentioned geographic representation. Have you ever witnessed any rivalry by geography? I don't know. It seems to me that I could see that maybe there would be some rivalry. I can't even say it with a straight face, but
Um, I will diplomatically say there's fun. We all have fun. We all, but to be fair, if we do feel that there's a conflict of interest, we have a process where people can recuse
Sure.
themselves, and we take that really seriously. And so we ask founders when they're applying, who should not. This is our list of typical reviewers. Who
Right.
should not review your application? We always look at that, and we ask reviewers, are you working with any companies? Are you advising, or have you heard of a company that you feel like you've just may have met with, a few times and just don't want to appear of any conflict of interest that you'd like to recuse yourself? So that's all part of the process. So we have that, and we have like non-disclosure and documentation, but there's some good rivalry.
I would
For
say healthy
healthy,
rivalry.
yes, healthy rivalry. But So there's people part of communities and they want to see their community flourish because they see all the hard work there, right? They see
Sure.
the founders there. So they just get really excited and they want the the coverage, the press coverage, the funding that comes with winning a micro or C grant. But at the end of the day, what's nice is that we're all working towards the same goal of choosing the most competitive companies in North Carolina because the um, the better the companies, not better, but if the companies that are chosen are the most competitive and they can go on to grow and bring revenue into the state, that helps everybody. But yeah, I mean, if you're working with founders regularly and you want to see them succeed, it's going to pull at your heartstrings a little bit more if they end up getting the grant. But I will say too, when we have conversations with our partners, if we see a region that hasn't had as many micro grantees or seed grantees. So we have those conversations internally and with our partners of, are there programs that are no longer running in a
Right.
certain area for early stage founders? Has anything changed? Were, companies getting certain types of government grants that are no longer available? We try to understand the landscape, and not that, again, we have limited funds, so it's not that we can just fund every new initiative, but we also have Barry Ryan on our team who had strategic partnerships. So he's often like aware of who is doing what in different parts of the state. So if one part of the state is maybe that it doesn't have a program that it used to, or maybe there's turnover in staff, which often can happen in economic development. Is there someone else in a different part of the state that he can connect them with, or can two organizations go in on a larger grant together if they
Right.
don't have the resource to do it individually? So we look at that data a lot because we want that geographic representation across the state.
Which tees me up nicely. So well done in your podcast hosting duties. That I'm gonna do a reveal here. I don't think I've ever said this publicly. So I'm gonna say it here and now. So maybe I should lean into the microphone and
This is an NPR moment.
use my NPR voice when I share this. But in all sincerity, as we already acknowledged, seed and micro, it's agnostic, right? Like the fact that you come from a tier 1 or a tier 3 county does not matter, regardless of your race, gender, and we're trying to level the playing field, and then it's just the best applications win. There is an area to our grant making where there is an intentional bias used, and it is in our ecosystem grant making. And when if y'all want to know a secret, a secret of NC Idea, it would be this. When we see the numbers as we do, and we obsess after every cycle, if the data reveals to us broader areas in the ecosystem that are lacking, that if we could have an intervention, if we could deploy resources, focus, and collaboration, we can, strengthen the state, then that will be a theme
Mhm.
for a given ecosystem cycle, 2-year cycle. So if you're curious to like, what are we leaning into? Whereas we're not overt in saying it, that is manifest in what we prioritize in ecosystem work. So if one cycle, several years ago, like when we launched the BEC, the Black Entrepreneurship Council, for example, we said overtly, hey, anybody in the ecosystem that's, helping entrepreneurs is eligible, but preferential treatment will be given to organizations that were, prioritizing female, minority, and rural, for example. Um, that is, I think, part of the secret of our success of what we are doing, because I think and you really helped me on this. I remember, you may not even remember this, but early in your tenure with us, you've always been improving the seed and micro process and the application process and the questions we ask. And we were scrubbing our data set,
Mhm.
and there were data fields that were generated, just historical artifacts over the years. Cause right, we've been around 21 years. So like things we were asking for in an application 20 years ago may not be relevant anymore. And you were like, we're not going to ask for anything in the application process if it's not an actionable data field for us.
Yeah.
So if we're not willing to evaluate that piece of information a founder has to provide as part of the application, we're not going to ask for it,
Mm-mm.
right? And that's very good. That's discipline, right? Because it's so easy for an organization to have that inertia and just go, I don't know. It's the way we always did it. I mean, you and I were present. One of our colleagues challenged us on why can't you be a nonprofit?
Yeah.
And apply for a seat. And not, no disrespect to either of us, but like the answer was, well, because we've always said that. And I thought to myself, I meant to follow up with you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe that's on the next update. Like when we do the post-mortem,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we revisit that. I don't know. On that particular question, I'm sure there's some very good reasons why. I mean, I can think of some spontaneously, but my point is that very intentional process.
Yeah.
Where we look at it and we say, hey man, if I was applying for that, and that's why I always say to people at the info sessions, when you let me attend one, is that we don't ask any superfluous questions. We're not asking, if you were a tree, what would you be and why? Or, stupid interview type questions. We're asking for very actionable data. And I think that's one of the reasons why we stand out. I cannot believe, actually I can believe, because I've enjoyed this so much that the time went like that. Christian has given us the hook, but wow, I still have like a half dozen questions, like trends. There's this little thing called AI that you know what, we might have to do a second episode, you and I, if I'm worthy of your time.
I'll check my schedule, Tom.
That would be wonderful. So, all right. So then here's my wrap. On occasion, I like to say, hey, can you guess how many mutual connections we have? And you would have checked this, I'm guessing.
Okay. So this just reveals the two sides of my brain. So there's the very analytical side that's like, well, I know Tom's going to ask me, or I should be prepared. So I'll just go look. The answer is right there. And then I go back to, I saw John Oliver at DPAC, German Performing Center, 6-7 years ago. And he talked about how we don't wonder anymore. And isn't it good to wonder? And I said, Amy, are you going to go get the answer?
Didn't check?
Or are you just going to wonder? So I wondered, but then I did a little bit of thought process. I didn't just say, I'll pick a number out of thin air. I came up with 500 because I came up with an average number that maybe we have added per year times 8. Again, I am this two-sided, analytical and very non-analytical, and they fight sometimes. But so I said 500.
I have never known you to be anything but the picture of honesty. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that. But there's a skeptical side of my brain because it's 531. So you're an analytical side.
I can show you my calculation from
No.
earlier.
You don't have to show me your work. Just saying.
But I'm very geared towards time.
Yeah.
So we time
So that's what you did.
So
you calculated our 8 years of working together?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah.
Yet another reason to be impressed by Amy Bastian. Amy, thank you. It has been a joy working with you. I hope you stay for as long as I'm still here, because I can't imagine working here without you. But yeah, I'm looking forward to many more years of just helping make North Carolina the best state in the nation to start and grow and scale high impact companies.
It's a privilege to do this work. We say it, but we really mean it.
Cool. Well, that's a wrap to an interesting podcast. Amy, thank you so much. As usual, folks, if you have ideas, topics, or guests, let us know. You can catch these anywhere you stream podcasts. And until we meet again, thank you.
Stay connected with NC Idea on LinkedIn and Facebook. Subscribe to our newsletter for all the latest. Catch new episodes of Ecosysteming every other Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in and being a part of this thing of ours.